A tense Oval Office exchange playing out in front of the American people between President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
Wow. Our next guest says Zelenskyy failed to see there is a new sheriff in town who puts America first.
Former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland joins us now. KT, when Zelenskyy is sitting there telling President Trump that right now we have this great ocean, and so we don't feel any pain, but we will soon, that sounds like a threat to me. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. Look, what Zelenskyy seems to think is that we want that minerals deal so much that we're going to give them, in effect, NATO membership. Because then he went and doubled down when he had the interview with Bret Baier. And he kept saying, we can't trust Putin without security guarantees. And security guarantees like, I guess, American presence on the ground with miners and engineers and construction workers isn't enough. He wants boots on the ground. When he kept talking about it, it was like he was going around in a circle. We can't trust Putin to keep any agreement. Therefore, we need security guarantees. But the security guarantees that you're offering aren't good enough. We want to have a military security guarantee, and the president is not going to give it. They are not NATO members, and we are not going to give them NATO protection. In fact, the president of the United States cannot give them that kind of protection because that's a treaty agreement. We don't have a treaty agreement with Ukraine, and we're not going to have one. I don't think this goes anywhere except worse unless President Zelenskyy either completely changes, which I don't think he will, or he steps down and we get a new leader in Ukraine who is willing to have a peace agreement.
KT, this kind of goes back to the beginning of the war, this idea of this of making Ukraine part of NATO. He was enticed by the prior administration that he might be able to be part of that, and he wanted that, and they said, yeah, you should be part of NATO, and that sort of really ticked off Putin. And so what Donald Trump, I guess, essentially is saying is, no, you're not going to do that, and that's a way to bring about peace. Why would Vladimir Zelenskyy, when he sees how many people have died in this war on his side and the other side, and the nature of the war, like these drones and these young men dying like they're targets in a video game, why wouldn't he want to end this in a way with us on his side this way?
Maybe he thinks that we're still going to come in with boots on the ground. Rachel, I went around to a lot of Eastern European countries over the summer before the election to just talk about what America First meant. And I met with Ukrainian officials, and they kept saying, well, President Biden has told us that he'll give us whatever it takes for as long as it takes. And I said, look, if President Trump is elected, that is not going to be the policy. We are America First. We are not going to be there in another forever war that is destined to be a defeat. So change your attitude. And they didn't change their attitude. They really expect somehow that the United States is going to support them in a military fashion. That's not going to happen.
You know, KT, since you have a realpolitik view of the world and understand the realities on the ground, unlike, I think, Zelenskyy did walking into the Oval Office yesterday, what do you think is really going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? What does a month from now look like in relations between Ukraine and the United States?
Ukraine is losing this war. They're losing it slowly, grindingly, but they are losing it. It's a war of attrition. And in a war of attrition, the reality is that the country with more people, more weapons, more staying power wins that war. And so either President Zelenskyy grabs at peace while he can have it, or, I don't know, maybe the President of the United States decides we don't want to be in another forever war. One thing is pretty much guaranteed. If there is a peace table, that Zelenskyy is not going to be invited to it, not with that attitude.
Wow.
Well, we're $175 billion into that war. Katie McFarland, it's so great to hear from you and get that insight of what they were thinking before Donald Trump got in and the fact that they haven't changed that attitude.
So, KT, we can say something that Zelenskyy didn't. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we can.